We got to talk about the Sider family. Y'all, if y'all don't remember, this was a horrible case where 16 children were found in deplorable conditions. And it seems like the mother, father, grandfather, and grandmother were all just sitting there letting it happen. But we're finding out more details about this horrible case, and we're finding out more details on the case that actually led them to this place in the first place.
Today, a grand jury indicted 4 members of the Siders family in the Vinton County child endangerment case, nearly 2 months now after authorities say they found 16 children living in what they called deplorable conditions inside a Hamden home. 2 family members, Gary Siders Jr. and Elizabeth Siders, were also indicted on charges of sexual battery and unlawful sexual conduct with a minor. We have been following this case since June 30th, when law enforcement removed those 16 children from that home on Omer Street.
But tonight we learn that child endangerment investigation is actually the third of 3 separate investigations. 10 TV's Libby Cathy is joining us in studio tonight to walk us through the new details. Libby?
That's right, Yolanda. Jeff, we learned today what initially led authorities to the Siders home where they discovered those 16 children. It was a separate child sexual abuse investigation, one initially involving 2 children and 2 South Bloomingville men, according to authorities. That's 23-year-old Josh Saunders, you see him on your screen, charged with rape and gross sexual imposition, and 40-year-old Brandon Henderson Sr., indicted on 21 charges, including endangering children and sexual battery. These men were arrested today. And that investigation led authorities to Elizabeth and Gary Siders Jr., and separate allegations that the couple sexually abused a minor in 2022. We're told that minor was not a member of their immediate family.
Now that brings a lot of more information to the story. Because remember, y'all, a lot of people are saying, or even her defense attorneys are saying, that Elizabeth Sider is the victim, or is a victim in this case. But if you were abusing children as a couple, how can you be a victim of this? There were 16 children in that house, just held in a room. Now, there were no cages or anything like that, but they were held, and that's where they slept for years. Barely leaving, barely anybody knew that they were in there. So how can she be a victim if she was doing stuff like this with her husband? But let's keep going into this.
Authorities were acting on that sexual abuse investigation on June 30th, there to collect Gary Siders Jr.'s DNA when they discovered the 16 children, sparking the child endangering investigation.
These cases began as an investigation into family child sex abuse. Law enforcement sought the DNA of Gary Siders Jr. related to the child sex abuse case. Once Siders Jr. was located, search warrants were executed to secure his DNA for genetic testing. Upon serving the search warrants for the child sex abuse case, the existence and condition of the 16 children at the Omer Street house became known.
So now all 4 Siders adults have been indicted on child endangering charges, and Gary Siders Jr. and Elizabeth Siders are also facing those additional sex crime charges for abuse of a minor that, again, was not one of their children. So we reached out to the Siders defense attorneys about this, and attorney for Gary Siders Sr. sent us a statement saying, in part, they're still in the beginning stages of this case, and discovery has not been received by the defense. He went on to say that defendants are presumed innocent unless proven guilty. Now, I went down to South Bloomingville today. No one I spoke to recognized Saunders or Henderson, but we are keeping in touch with residents there and staying on this story. Jeff, Yolanda?
Now, it's a tragic situation that these children had to be put through this in the first place. But the real question is, how did no one truly know about these children? 16 kids? It's absolutely sickening. Now let's get over into more details about the 2 men arrested recently who basically led to this investigation in the first place. So let's get over into it.
2 men, prosecutors say, helped spark the investigation into the Siders family were in court today. Brandon Henderson Sr. and Josh Saunders are now facing charges in a child sex abuse case. The Ohio Attorney General's office says the investigation first began in December of last year. 10 TV's Kristen McFarland is live in Vinton County. Kristen, what do we know about the relationship between these men and the Siders family?
Yeah, Bryn. Well, first of all, Josh Saunders and Brandon Henderson's bond was set at $250,000 by a judge just a little while ago. Both men pled not guilty. As you mentioned, this all started in December when an investigation was open into alleged sexual abuse of 2 children. Now, this led to the indictments and arrests of both Hocking County men, Josh Saunders and Brandon Henderson. Saunders is charged with 3 counts of rape and 1 count gross sexual imposition. Henderson is facing 21 charges, including 8 counts sexual battery, 8 counts of gross sexual imposition, and 4 counts endangering children. Investigators say the investigation into these 2 men are what led to an investigation into Elizabeth and Gary Siders Jr. and what ultimately led to discovery of the 16 children. Both parents are facing sexual battery charges and each 2 counts of unlawful sexual conduct with a minor. The Attorney General's office says the victim is not a family member of the immediate Siders family. Right now, we are working to learn the alleged connection and relationship with those 2 men and the Siders family. We'll, of course, bring you the latest as we learn more. For now, reporting live in Vinton County.
Yeah, that is the biggest question. What is the connection? How did they lead to them? Most likely, either information while either they came in contact with each other and they knew about the crimes about each other, but this is a crazy situation, y'all. Let's get over into the AI breakdown just to see what else it tells us and to see if we actually learn anything else. So, as we know, as of August 2026, 4 adults, members of the Sider family, Gary Siders Jr., Elizabeth Siders, Gary Siders Sr., and Christina Siders, have been formally indicted with the parents, Gary Jr. and Elizabeth, facing additional felony charges as of child sexual abuse charges stemming from a parallel investigation. The 16 children discovered in the horrific conditions in the Ohio home on June 30th, 2026 were found only because authorities arrived to execute a DNA search warrant on Gary Siders Jr. related to the separate minor sexual abuse allegation. So the grand jury indictment formalized the severe legal consequences facing the adults involved in the case. Gary Siders Jr. and Elizabeth Siders both facing 19 counts of child endangerment, each regarding the horrific condition of their 16 children. Furthermore, they both have been indicted on 2 counts of sexual battery and 2 counts of unlawful sexual conduct with a minor. These sex abuse charges involve a non-family minor who was more than 10 years younger than them during the alleged period between January and September 2022. Christina Sider, the grandmother, indicted on 19 charges of child endangerment, and then Gary Siders Sr. indicted on 16 charges. So in December 2025, authorities launched a child sexual abuse investigation into 2 other relatives from South Bloomingdale, Josh Sanders, the nephew of Gary Sanders Jr., and Brandon Henderson Sr., 40, uncle to the 16 children. Okay, we're starting to get some information. So the whole family is rotten. That's basically what I'm getting from this. The whole family is rotten. So evidence from the Saunders and Henderson case prompted a separate March 2026 investigation into Gary Jr. and Elizabeth Siders. When deputies arrived at the Siders' house on June 30th to collect his DNA, that's when they discovered the 16 children. Talking about it was in deplorable conditions. So information, let's see. So it seems that a Vinton County grand jury indicted both parents on 4 identical felony sex abuse charges, 2 counts each of sexual battery and 2 counts each of unlawful sexual conduct with a minor. So it seems the incident happened between January 2022 and September 2022. State officials revealed that the victim was a minor who was more than 10 years younger than the couple's own age at the time of the offense. So during the timeline, Gary Jr. would have been 32 and Elizabeth would have been 29. So attorneys generals Wilson explicitly stated that the victim in the sexual abuse case is not one of the 16 children. However, the prosecution clarified that the case still involves intra-family relations, indicating that the victim was likely an extended relative outside of their immediate household. Oh my God. Because the case is actively moving through the court system and involves a minor, any further details are not provided to protect the minor's identity, of course. But this is crazy. So we were originally thinking that it was just this group of family members, these 4 family members who were sick in the head and doing something egregious to the 16 children. But now we learn that the whole family, you got uncles and brothers who are sexual menaces, who are predators, pedophiles. Does it run in their blood? What are we looking at here? This is why you have to do we got to do our research on this type of stuff. And it's a tragic situation of the victims in this case. But these people need to be arrested. And the real question is, do you still believe that Elizabeth is a victim? That's what the defense is claiming. They're claiming because they did marry each other. I think he was 19, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. Okay, yeah, see, people are saying she's a victim because he was 18 and she was 15 when they were married, when they legally got married, which I can understand that. But if down the road you sexually abuse a minor, are you still considered a victim? Or are you Stockholm syndrome, so where you become the predator yourself? Is that what they're trying to say? How will her defense even bring this up and explain this? Well, it's a lot of questions, y'all, but let me know your thoughts and let me know if you disagree with anything I said. It's a crazy case, but this is the type of stuff that we got to review.